Chris.
Heath.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, this is a big show.
How big is it?
It's the size of the PlayStation 5. That's how big it is.
Timely, yeah, because it just came out.
Yeah, we're in a new generation now, Heath.
It just came out, but no one has one yet.
I can confirm 2 people I know personally who have ordered one at the least.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Everyone's ordered it, but no one's orders are coming in because Amazon they understocked, they over-ordered. But the next gen is here.
Yeah, I have a coworker who got one after refreshing the PlayStation 5 store page all day launch day, and I have it on good authority that Mobius Tube's listener Nate got one.
Attaboy.
After he did some URL manipulation to jump ahead in line.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Okay, you're familiar.
Well, not specifically with Sony, but with the RTX.
Oh, for graphics cards.
What you wanted to have done is put a graphics card that you didn't want in your shopping cart ahead of time so that when the item that you did want, the 3090, 3080?
3080, 3090, sure. They're both out there.
Yeah. The item that you did want became available, and so many people, the traffic on the website was so great that it was struggling to get you to the shopping cart. So what you needed to do was use the URL that you got from the previous item that you put in there to get to the checkout.
Okay.
Through the URL manipulation like Nate did, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy times we live in.
Yeah.
Because I've heard a lot of retailers aren't even selling these pieces of hardware. It's just online orders.
That too.
We're living in a digital world. However, neither of us have next-gen consoles. But I'll talk about later.
We have amazing PCs.
Yeah, sure. I guess that's true. This is Mobius Tubes.
Hey, welcome. It's episode 54.
Yeah. And this is being recorded November 15th, 2020.
And it will hopefully be out by November 16th, because when else are we going to get it out?
Yeah, we've got some rapid-fire episodes coming down the pipeline. Look forward to that. This is going to be our promised mailbag episode. We have more emails to read this episode than we've had in the past 3 months combined.
Very good. That I'm happy to hear. And if you would like to send us an email, you need only type it in to mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. But before we address all of the listener feedback we've received, let's talk about what we've been playing the past couple weeks. Not on our next-gen consoles, but on our old hardware.
And not on your dining room table, unless you wanted to talk about that.
Oh, I'll talk about... Want me to start?
Well, hey, how about this?
Okay.
This is a game that I didn't play on my current video game system or on your dining room table. I successfully initiated Spyfall among my work friends.
Okay, you're talking about the social deduction card game / board game Spyfall.
/ on my phone game.
Oh, that's right. There is
That's how you trick people who don't like games into playing.
You Trojan horse
Yo,
it.
it's just on your phone, man. You just type it. Because they know how to use a search engine.
Right.
And before they know it, they're already queuing up for the next game.
So you played the browser-based version of Spyfall.
I've got 2 of my work friends who would never do a Jackbox.
Okay.
They would never do a secret Hitler.
Wow.
But they would do a I tricked them. And we would have done it with 4 people, but the 4th one was cooking.
Wait, excuse me. Did I understand that correctly? You played Spyfall with 3 players?
Yeah, that's the minimum. That's all I could muster. Chris, this is a great achievement. Are you telling me if in fact, I think that was the number of people that landed on the moon the first time. And you're like, well, hold on. Only 3 people? That's still a great achievement.
I've never played Spyfall with fewer than 6.
Duh, you lucky you.
Okay, so how do...
Oh my God.
I'm sure many of our listeners have never played Spyfall. What is this game, Heath?
Everyone is sent a location on their mobile device. You are either at the beach or the circus or a corporate party. But one person is not given the location. They are the spy. Their job is to figure it out via questions asked amongst the players. If we're at an amusement park and I say, Chris, would this be a great place to bring my 90-year-old grandmother? And you said, yo, totally, dude. Yeah, this is a great place. Then I would figure out that you're the spy because those two don't really go together.
Grandmas want to have fun.
You know what?
Amusement.
They're the number one participants on the Man of Steel. But it's a great game because the rounds are quick. They're like 6 minutes. And time is of the essence. And I work in the locations department on a film.
How appropriate.
So this game is tailor-made, the thing being it's only locations. So that's also how I tricked my work friends into participating.
So these coworkers of yours who you suckered into Spyfall, who they wouldn't even touch Jackbox, how did they take to this game?
Oh, they took it well. They were like, yo, next round, queue up, because they themselves wanted to be spies, and those that had been spies wanted to not be spies.
Yeah.
We played it for at least an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, I was patting myself on the back.
Did you go through every location? An hour seems like a long time.
We had a few redundancies, but there are many locations.
Yeah.
Like any of the fun ones, we didn't go to like the North Pole Station or the pirate ship or the outer space satellite.
Okay.
It was normal, like hotel, bank, normal stuff.
Cool.
I didn't get to my fun line of questioning though.
Oh, yeah?
Well, that's when you do multiple choice.
Oh, I love the
Remember?
multiple choice.
Those are great.
So I'm glad you were able to continue being an ambassador to games, Heath.
I will say this, there are a couple of URLs you can use. There's spyfall.adrianacola, and then there's spyfall.app or whatever.
Okay.
There are more officially sanctioned versions of Spyfall since we last played on mobile.
Okay.
They're kind of user-friendly. In fact, the version we played with will suggest questions that you ought to ask at the very bottom if you scroll all the way down. And it'll give you a new question after a minute.
That's very beginner-friendly.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Takes some of the pressure off when you're just learning the game.
Yeah. But that's the only game that wasn't on a console or PC system. So do you want to take the reins or...
No, let's keep going down the Heath rabbit hole.
Okay. Well, Heath, just so you know, you just wrapped up the Syracuse gig and you're going to be hanging out at least through the holidays. And good thing while you were working that you beseeched your roommate's PS4 and played a game that you had not played before.
Oh.
Knowing that was a temporary arrangement, I crushed over the past 3 days the entirety of Bioshock.
Whoa.
I beat Bioshock. I have never played it before. And my first question, Chris, is when you were discussing the main takeaways from the game, did you use the phrase, "would you kindly"? Because I totally missed it if you did. And that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, as far as Bioshock references goes, that's pretty low-hanging fruit.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I loved Bioshock. Obviously.
Yes. Okay.
Because I have loved its successors. I am not talking about Bioshock 2. I'm not talking about Bioshock Infinite. You can clearly see how Fallout took the Bioshock formula and made it a even bigger game. So Bioshock is a shooty, power-based, first-person action game.
Sure. Yeah.
That has a 40s cartoonish theme along with some chilling atmosphere. It's a horror game. And you crash land into the city of Rapture, which from our previous conversation, I thought that the main reveal of the first game at the end was that it was underwater. And that's the first thing you find out.
Oh yeah, that's not a secret.
Yeah, no, it's the first thing. I enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't change the difficulty down to easy until after the first boss. During that time, I found it a refreshing challenge, trying to balance ammunition consumption and my powers, the plasmids.
Yes.
I liked how you had to try to balance whether or not you wanted to go Electro Boost or the Fire one or Telekinesis, and whether or not you wanted to invest your Atom into more plasmid slots or health upgrades or tech manipulation hacker skills. I liked the hacking in this game. It was
you liked the pipe filling with water minigame?
Yo, give me more of that. I want a whole game full of manipulating pipes.
Okay, I think that's a segment of the game most people dislike.
No, I dug it. Yeah, I would, every chance I got. Well, most chances I got, I would run up to the security camera and try to hack them. The enemy variation was okay. Big Daddy, it's just fun to say. The walking around submarine suit.
Welding suit.
What did it call this? Submarine suit. What's it called?
Welding suit.
Underwater. Yeah, but it doesn't have like a special name. Deep sea diving suit were the words I was looking for. But yeah, obviously I would like Bioshock because I like Fallout, which took all of its shooty gun stuff and its cheery 40s cartoon stuff. Andrew Ryan, right? Yeah? Am I getting my dates wrong?
Push back against this because Fallout vastly predates Bioshock.
Does it really? Ah.
Yeah.
Well, no. Okay, you say Fallout predates Bioshock. Fallout 1 and 2 do.
Yes, yeah.
But 3 in New Vegas?
Those came out after Bioshock.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But like the Fallout canon and world building and universe had been established way before Bioshock.
No.
Yeah. They weren't first-person shooters back then, but they were isometric RPGs with all of that dark comedic humor and
the mid-Atlantic
1950s Americana.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Well, fine.
But Bethesda didn't invent
as
that
much
stuff.
as Star Wars didn't invent the science fiction serials of the 50s that George Lucas grew up with. It would go on to establish this is how space westerns are done. And then everyone would just do a takeoff of that. I'm saying that Bioshock established the gun Americana thing. Bethesda played Bioshock and we're like, you know what? We should do a shooter with this 50s Americana theming with some heavily armored big boys.
Because of the Brotherhood of Steel.
It's obvious.
All right, even if we go with this theory...
The power suits are a Big Daddy lookalike.
If we go with this theory that the folks at Bethesda played Bioshock in 2007 and got inspired by it...
When did Fallout 3 come out?
Fallout 3 came out in 2008.
2009?
So 1 year would not be enough time to completely pivot their game.
It's
to be
shocking
inspired.
that they come out nearly the same time and they're nearly like the same game, except Bioshock is horror and Fallout is more RPG. Well, anyway, Batman played Bioshock and copied that.
Okay.
Am I the first person to say this? I can't be.
You think the Batman Arkham games were inspired by Bioshock?
For sure.
In which department?
In like the action elements and immersive sim, how do you figure out how you want to play and puzzles and having bigger enemies that charge you.
I think you are pulling at threads here, Heath.
Wow. Okay. Well, if you told me that the Batman Arkham dev team played Bioshock, I would not be surprised. But I thought Bioshock was great. I loved Andrew Ryan. I totally got bamboozled by the twist.
Yeah. The twist is really the takeaway here. Mm-hmm. That and its incredible atmosphere, level design. Really good.
I spared all the little sisters.
As you should, yeah.
Maybe it was because I heard that it was equally rewarding.
Okay.
It made me curious about Bioshock 2 enough to start Bioshock 2.
Whoa, wow.
Ooh, Bioshock 2 does not feel as good.
Oh, really?
Well, in Bioshock 1, you play as Jack something.
Yeah, your name is just Jack, right?
Maybe. But you're just like a crash-landed guy, and you're following the disembodied voice throughout your missions. In Bioshock 2, you start as a Big Daddy, and your melee option is not a wrench, it's a drill. And boy, does that drill animation when you attack enemies just look so disconnected.
Yeah.
The power of the drill, and it's just like, it slightly mangles enemies. It made the Big Daddies feel weaker.
Okay.
By having it be your introductory player character in the sequel.
I could see that, yeah.
I thought Bioshock 1 was great. the Sander
Sandra
Cohen.
Cohen. Yeah, tell me about him.
I thought that was going to be filler, just like a third act, because he is the Broadway elite, sophisticated orchestra type mid-game boss who has you go out and slay his former lovers and photograph them for his piece de resistance.
Right.
That's a good image for what Bioshock is. It's psychopaths coming to attack you to the tune of
Classical music.
Waltz of the Flowers from the Nutcracker.
Yeah.
And you just having to roll with it. I thought that was going to be like the worst part of the game because it was just being filler. It ended up being a pretty interesting part of the game.
Sandra Cohen is a highlight for sure.
Yeah.
What plasmids did you lean on?
The Electro Boost.
Okay.
And the Freeze one later. I didn't do the hackery, hypnotizy ones, but I was just so impressed by how the game continued to mix it up. They took away your guns at one point, so you had to use your plasmids to defeat that one boss.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, his Pinky was the name in the icy world. At one point, you take the brainwashing antidote, which limits your ability to choose which plasmid you can use. So you have to adjust on the fly to whatever it gives you. And I thought that was just so good. Shocker, Bioshock is good.
Yeah.
I totally understand why it is labeled as a classic.
Right.
And it ought to be in the Video Game Hall of Fame. It's certainly been nominated before.
I believe so, yeah.
It's not inducted yet.
I would be very curious to get your take on Bioshock Infinite. This is a hot take. I personally prefer it to the original Bioshock,
Ooh.
which I think people have in recent years cooled on Infinite. It has better gunplay. I think that's not up for debate. I enjoy the twist on an equal level as the first one.
Okay. I know that there is a big bird.
There is Songbird, yes, who is kind of like the stand-in for Big Daddies in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth is a really cool character. It's a less isolated feeling game since you do have a companion for most of the game.
Booker Catch.
Booker Catch, yeah.
But I can't play it now because I don't have the PlayStation 4 because I'm done with that job.
Okay.
So I'll have to find it through other means.
Sure, yeah. It's definitely on PC.
I know. The point was not having to buy it.
Yeah, okay.
So that I beat Bioshock. It's really good.
You know, Ken Levine, the creative mind behind Bioshock,
Yeah.
he's been hard at work at a new studio for years now, working on
Not Irrational?
on some. Yeah, Irrational folded after Infinite came out,
Oh.
so that studio doesn't exist in the same capacity it once did. Ken Levine's new studio, though, I don't think it's released a game yet, and Infinite came out in 2013, so they are up to something.
Oh. Yeah. And he has capital.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Plus, the publisher that owns the Bioshock license, 2K, they are making another Bioshock game.
Oh, weird.
It doesn't have the same people behind it, so it remains to be seen how quality of a game it'll be, but we have potentially two kind of Bioshock successors coming in the near future.
We're looking at an Obsidian Fallout kind of deal.
Yeah, kind of like that, to tie it back to Fallout again.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say, Bioshock is a horror game, but I wasn't super scared like I was in Soma, another game that is absolutely Bioshock.
Okay, I'm with you this time.
Yeah.
That feels inspired.
Yeah.
Did you play Soma?
No, I watched my brother play it.
Gotcha.
The reason Soma is so much scarier than Bioshock is because Bioshock feels more dated.
Oh.
And so the tricks that would have scared me, I find endearing.
Because that Bioshock is a 13-year-old game.
Right.
While Soma is much more contemporary.
Bioshock will turn your screen pitch black, said for your reticle and heads-up display. And I won't be scared because I know from game design that nothing's going to attack me while I can't see it. Whereas maybe if I was a nascent early adopter video game player, that might have scared me because that wouldn't have been quite so obvious from a user experience standpoint. I think I know too much is what I'm trying to say.
You can see the strings manipulating the puppet. I'd also point out Bioshock gives you the means to defend yourself, while Soma, you have to run and hide pretty much exclusively.
Yeah, which is also, yeah. That was interesting for me to see how age granted some level of safety.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess it felt less real because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That was Bioshock.
Very cool. It's nice that you had the willingness to try a game from so long ago. You want me to pivot? I have also a game from 2007.
I was going to say, yeah, how old is the game you've been playing?
So I returned to Super Mario Galaxy and I finished it. And by finished it, I mean I hit the credits. I collected like 63 out of the 120 power stars. So my completion percentage is like 50%, but I did roll credits, save the princess, that kind of thing.
And you have an equally controversial take that it is a good game.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to upset so many people by saying I had a great time playing Super Mario Galaxy. To revisit the conversation we had like 2 episodes ago about Galaxy, I think I gave the impression I was harsher than I intended to be on the game. I think it's great. I still think it's among like the world's best 3D platformers. I just happen to prefer Odyssey to Galaxy a little bit. Now that I've seen the end of that game once again, and that's fresh in my memory, it does get pretty creative. I had forgotten so much about this game. It was practically like a fresh experience for me. There are kind of like novelty galaxies you can fly to that only have 1 power star in them, but then they get really creative with it. There's a bubble galaxy where you're in a bubble and you have the means to manipulate gusts of air to push you around, and you have to use the motion controls to change the angle at which you're blowing your bubble, and you're avoiding spikes and things. That gameplay is totally different. You don't see those mechanics used anywhere else in Galaxy whatsoever. It's just a one-off thing that they invented for that one galaxy. Ooh, at the very end of the game, there are some challenging galaxies that have like
panel floors that switch out on rotation with like the green and the pink.
There's some of that going on.
Yeah.
There's one really visually compelling level where it's almost like there are droplets of water that are like pinging around the environment. And whenever the droplet of water lands, it creates like a solid block you can platform on. But then as the droplet of water goes elsewhere in the level, the areas that are solid continuously shrink. So you're basically having to chase this droplet of water that's bouncing around. Otherwise, you'll fall to your death.
Okay.
And then there's cool visuals to accompany that mechanic. Galaxy is really creative. I really like it. I think the port to the Switch, they did a good job adapting it to not just be forgotten on the Wii. All the motion control stuff, that ports over surprisingly well to the Switch. And I have nothing but praise for it. It was a lot of fun.
Are there still the Luigi levels and stuff? Yeah.
I think you have to get like all the stars to unlock Luigi as a playable character, but he's still in it. He will find, there are like special Luigi stars.
Yeah.
You have to like, there will be a photograph you're provided with of Luigi somewhere in a level. You have to, just based on the photograph, figure out where he is. It's kind of like, where's Waldo? But it's where's Luigi?
Mm-hmm. Is Waldo Italian? Waldo's Canadian, right?
Oh, he looks Canadian.
Oh, he sure does.
He just screams Maple Leafs. Yeah, nothing earth-shattering to say about Galaxy. I had a lot of fun with it.
All right. Man, we are so uncontroversial with our video game takes.
Who would have thought these decade-old classics that everyone universally praises were good games?
All right. You ready to what am I trying to say? Shake the waters? What am I trying to say?
Oh, you're trying to say...
Storm the seas?
What are you trying to say?
I played Death Stranding.
Okay.
I like Death Stranding.
Here we go. Is this... No, this isn't your first Kojima game because you played Ground Zeroes.
I played Ground Zeroes.
But this is your first big-scale Kojima game?
His AAA. Death Stranding was the first Strand-type game. It's a traversal game. The main combat is what type of ground are you walking on and whether or not it will cause you to trip and drop your packages. I find it very relaxing to bring packages across America and unite America under the UCA. My favorite part of the game is the traversal part and the stealth part, trying to navigate around the ghosts and the bad people that are trying to steal your cargo. My least favorite part of the game is the story.
Oh, I thought that was one of the main appeals of Kojima games.
No.
No?
No.
You're in it solely for the cross-country gameplay.
The story in Death Stranding is such nonsense. You needn't play past the 45-minute mark to totally understand the rest of the 60 hours of this game, to know that it is going to be full of incomprehensible narration and leaps in sci-fi logic no bridge. See what I did there?
No bridge.
Could ever gap between. And cue up my PowerPoint. So, this PowerPoint is called the Kojima Korner,
Wow.
aka world building versus script writing
Okay.
axes.
You have an axes system.
So, Chris, what is world building? World building, as defined by Wikipedia, is the process of constructing an imaginary world, sometimes associated with a whole fictional universe. Developing an imaginary setting of coherent qualities such as history, geography, and ecology is the key task of many science fiction writers. Chris, what are some media that do a great job of world building? Probably the first thing you think of is like Lord of the Rings,
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Yeah, those fantasy settings. Yeah.
Those are usually comprehensive. They have long backstories of history written for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thesis for this story is Death Stranding and Kojima by proxy has the capacity for outstanding world building,
Okay.
but terrible script writing. Other people use the word setting or exposition or cinematic universe to describe world building, but for our purposes, we're just going to call it what it is, world building.
Sure. I'm with you.
Script writing, and this I got from, not from Wikipedia, but another equally reputable source. I think it was like phantasmafilmfest.org.
All right.
Script writing is where a writer puts together the content that will be used in all manner of live recorded presentations. Script writing is all about what is being said on a film or a set or in a game. Other people would call it dialogue or the plot,
Yeah.
but just for our purposes, we'll call it script writing.
Script writing encompasses more than just the plot.
Yeah. That's why I'm using it. So, let's go to the compass.
All right. Just so the listeners at home can envision what I'm seeing here, we have two axes here. One is script writing, one is world building.
And I'll tweet this out.
Yeah, we'll link to this. Of course, because there's two axes here, we have 4 quadrants.
I've named them.
Okay, why don't you run us through the names here?
Well, the titular corner is the Kojima corner.
The qualities of the Kojima corner are work with outstanding world building, but terrible script writing.
What kind of script writing is in Death Stranding? Well, your player character's name is Sam Porter Bridges.
Uh-huh.
He is a porter, meaning he transports cargo, and he works for the institution Bridges,
Yeah.
which is helping to reconnect America after the Death Stranding.
Yes.
The president's name is Bridget.
Bridget? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
And we've already described the characters named Deadman, Heartman, and Die Hard Man,
Yeah.
who each have baffling namesakes. And this is very Japanese, right? Where the names will be related in some way to their characteristics. There is a character named Fragile who says verbatim, "I'm fragile, but I'm not that fragile."
Wow.
And at one point, the main villain goes, "You're damaged goods." And she punches him and retorts with, "You're damaged goods."
Holy sh!
It's awful. It's irredeemable, which is why Death Stranding is so high in the Kojima corner.
Yes. It is the furthest left for terrible script writing.
No.
The room. I missed the room.
Tommy Wiseau is just a little worse.
So yeah, Kojima's naming conventions for his characters could not be any more heavy-handed.
Well, in the past, he's named What was the name of the boss in Snake Eater?
I believe it's the boss.
Yeah. And then, other cool names in Kojima games have been Psycho Mantis, Revolver Ocelot, who uses revolvers.
Yeah.
But in Death Stranding, there are some elements that Kojima does very well. When you activate a terminal that helps you construct more roads, the jingle that the machine plays when you activate it is the tune to London Bridge is Falling Down. That's a nice touch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when the character named Mama calls you on the codec, it's the tune of what's the tune? Oh my god.
Something motherly? Is it like a lullaby?
Yeah. It's called Hush Little Baby.
Walk me through these other works of fiction that are in the Kojima corner. Heath.
Right, so I was fine-tuning this. So other pieces of media that share in Death Stranding's exceptional world building but fail in the script writing department are obviously things like Avatar, big movie with the Na'vi on Pandora and the floating mountains and unobtainium. And it's like, oh, what a great world, right? Interesting things to develop on. And then the script was just like, meh, just like name a character from Avatar.
I've never watched the Avatar movie.
Nor should you. So that's just a skosh above Death Stranding. But the writing is tons better by comparison. David Cage is in the Kojima corner because, as everyone who's ever listened to this show should know, he only focuses on the big picture and lets his characters interact in such a way that takes you out of it consistently, and he does not understand how people talk, but he has great environments.
Okay. I'd say, like the environments in those games
like Beyond Two Souls
are gorgeous.
Crazy idea. That's very similar to Death Stranding, in fact.
Okay.
What with spirits and the world between, and
I'd push back a little here. The world of Detroit Become Human is, there are androids living amongst the humans. That's not earth-shattering.
Then you get blue blood and red ice and the ways in which... Yeah, okay. I didn't put Detroit up in that thing. That I would maybe knock down a peg.
All right, and Heavy Rain's universe is just what? Rainy City?
Okay. Maybe what was inflating David Cage's world-building chops stemmed more from Indigo Prophecy and Omicron the Nomad Soul.
I'm not familiar with those.
Nor I value our friendship too much to introduce you to those.
Okay.
So, you know what? I will make the adjustment. David Cage ought to be below most horror movies.
Okay.
Maybe. What are your thoughts on most horror movies belonging in this corner?
Living in the Kojima corner.
Yeah. Because many of them are lacking in the writing department.
In the writing department, they can be pretty campy. Oftentimes, that's a necessity for the characters to get into the bad situations they find themselves in.
Yeah. But as far as like creativity and the visuals and...
Yeah,
that's why I felt it was it's very center to the Kojima corner.
I feel like that belongs.
Yeah. And then Game of Thrones, I put... it's closer to Batman than Death Stranding in its script writing.
Later seasons of Game of Thrones totally belong in the Kojima corner.
Yeah, okay, good. And then I put like Fast and Furious and Twilight toward the bottom.
Sure.
And then over to the good stuff.
Okay.
So you see Bioshock, we've already talked about that.
We're in a whole different quadrant now.
Oh yeah, we're in Epic Epics.
Epic Epics have outstanding world building and outstanding script writing.
Yeah.
They're the whole package.
For my money, Harry Potter is the greatest in both regards.
According to this chart, Harry Potter is... Shakespeare outclasses it in the script writing department.
Well, yeah.
But otherwise, it's unrivaled.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. That's definitely a solid choice.
I mean, Star Wars is close.
Yeah, Star Wars is close.
But it's not as good in the script writing.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I could see it.
You eyeing my Witcher placement?
If anything, Witcher placement should be lower.
Should be like over here, like Bioshock-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
An interesting fact is the author of the Witcher novels, Sapkowski, he says he did not design a world for The Witcher. He written like tomes of history that exist outside the books.
Is that why I just called it The Continent?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's only written the amount of world building, the bare minimum required to tell the plot of those books.
To make it comprehensive. Excuse me, comprehensible.
It's kind of like he wrote the books, and if you were to ask him things like the backstory of this character or the origin of this,
the history
of this architecture, there are no answers for those questions because he never wrote those. It's the antithesis of Game of Thrones and Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, where for Tolkien, there's what's it called? There's lots of additional source material.
What's the one main thing called?
The Silmarillion.
The Silmarillion, yeah.
That's what it's called, which dives into the nitty-gritty details of all the things you could ever care about.
Yeah, it's like encyclopedic, isn't it?
Yes. None of that exists in the Witcher lore.
Yeah.
So based on that knowledge, that's why I'm saying you should probably maybe dock the Witcher's world-building status.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think the games do a good job of fleshing it out to some extent.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to be generous towards you. And then the only other square that bears mentioning is the bottom right.
Okay. This is called the Soap Square.
Yeah, it's for media that has outstanding script writing, but poor world building.
Huh.
And my brain immediately went to soap operas. Because
Okay.
what are soap operas? They all take place in a person's home or place of employment, and they all have normal clothes
Yeah.
and the same lighting and stuff. So the world building could not be more minimal.
You can film them on like a really low budget.
Yeah.
There's nothing extraordinary about their setting.
All they got going for them is the dialogue,
Yeah.
which is why it has to be my twin brother who escaped prison is back to rekindle his love for my long lost daughter, right? Yeah, or whatever. You know, like the quintessential soap opera bonkers plot
Yeah.
and how they play it completely straight.
Super spicy.
Which is why I called it the Soap Square. I can only think of one other piece of media that belongs in that is like 12 Angry Men. It's a courtroom drama.
Right.
So that's all it's got going.
Nothing exists in that world outside of that courtroom.
Is the discussion, yeah.
Cool.
So what else would you add to
The Soap Square?
or the whole compass?
Oh, okay.
What is missing? Because I was trying to think of like what would Bailey add to this? What would you add to this?
Oh, you know what I would throw into... You already have so many examples in the Kojima corner. I might put in like an Elder Scrolls game in there. Because those worlds
You're
are
right.
expansive. There's like so much lore in them. But as far as like the authored plot of Skyrim, you always hear about people who say, I totally ignored the main quest of Skyrim and just dicked around doing all the side stuff. That's because the plot isn't all that compelling. It's pretty
I would
generic.
maybe sandwich it between Death Stranding and 13 Sentinels.
Oh, okay.
Also 13 Sentinels.
Also 13 Sentinels. I
A
don't
game
think
neither of us have played.
neither of us really know enough to quantify where that game belongs.
Yeah, I beg to differ. I feel
Really?
like it belongs there. I hear it has crazy world building,
Okay.
but also it's senpai dialogue.
We never mentioned by name what the fourth quadrant was. That is terrible script writing and terrible world building. You've named it. A child wrote it. And examples are The Room.
I can think of nothing else worth mentioning that belongs in there.
You don't want to be overly mean.
I would maybe put most Hallmark things in there.
Oof. Yeah, I could see that.
You might even want to call it like the Hallmark zone.
Aisle.
The Hallmark aisle. That's nice. Yeah. Okay, we'll fix that.
Sweet. This was a fun experiment.
Yeah.
I have personally thought in the past about that relationship between how authentic of a setting a piece of fiction has versus the plot they tell with it. And they're not always of an equal quality. There can be like a disconnect there.
Yeah, the only interesting quadrants in this compass are the Kojima corner and the Soap Square.
Okay. Because the other two are just...
Very good or very bad.
Right.
But the ways in which these the the top left and the bottom right are so interesting to me.
I can see why. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, how did you nail this one aspect so well and screw up the rest?
Yeah. If anyone can let me know of more good examples that belong in the Kojima corner or the sub square, do write in.
Yeah.
If anything, I'd love to shout it out.
Nice.
That's all I've been playing that I want to mention.
Okay. Will you be continuing to play Death Stranding?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I have more Death Stranding questions for you that maybe you can answer later, such as, how does the game hit you now that we're living in a post-pandemic world?
Ooh, there are characters that say it's so hard to connect with people without shaking hands.
Yeah.
And I go, that's the new normal.
Yeah. It's pretty bizarre when that game launched just a couple months before this all started.
Yeah.
All right.
I will also say I finished Pikuniku.
Oh, nice.
It's great.
Confirming what you already thought from last episode.
Continue to recommend it, yeah.
Sweet. What was the final playtime on that?
5 hours.
Okay. You can bang that out quickly.
Yeah.
Cool. I did one other thing this week.
What'd you do?
That was yesterday. I built a PC.
Yeah.
Or I guess technically I upgraded my existing PC. We're getting into the Ship of Theseus territory where most of the components in my original PC have been replaced. Is it still my same PC or is it a new one?
I like this.
That's for the philosophy majors to debate.
Yeah, what is this? What's the name of it? It's like a logical
Paradox,
yeah.
Thought experiment.
Metaphysics of identity.
Right.
What was the name of your old PC?
I didn't name it.
What's the name of the new PC?
I have never been one to name my physical objects.
Me neither.
My car has no name.
My car has a name only because Bailey's car has a name.
Okay. I've noticed girls I date tend to have names for their cars.
Yeah.
Do you think that's just like a girl-guy thing?
It's, yeah.
Mine's just a Ford Fiesta.
If you want to name Chris's car, write in.
Yeah, write in. Tell us what you think.
He will change its name.
It's silver. That's its color. So keep that in mind.
Blue?
My car? No.
Oh, sorry. The Ford Fiesta I drove was blue.
Gotcha. All right. So I built a PC yesterday. I have taken one step into the next generation, Heath, because the whole incentive behind doing this PC upgrade was to get a brand new CPU. So I have jumped onto the AMD bandwagon for the first time, abandoned Intel. I got one of those brand new Zen 3 CPUs. I got a Ryzen 5800X, which is meaningful to some people out there.
How many gigahertz? How many, what's the metric that people use?
It has 8 cores and it has 16 threads.
Okay.
I don't know its clock speed offhand, but to put into perspective how big of an upgrade this is for me, I'm coming from a 2014 Intel Core i5 4690K.
i5.
Yeah.
Oh.
The old CPU I'm replacing had 4 cores and 4 threads. So I've doubled my core count and quadrupled my thread count.
Yeah.
This is a beefy update. Now, anyone who knows anything about building PCs, they know if you're replacing the CPU like that, that also necessitates replacing your motherboard and replacing your RAM. So I essentially went through the entire PC building process yesterday of ripping out the old stuff, putting all the new stuff in my new motherboard, and slotting it in. The only things I kept were my graphics card, my case, my power supply, and the hard drive I had Windows installed on. But everything else got replaced. It was a bit of a rough time. It got my blood, it got my sweat, and it almost had my tears because there were 2 pain points around this build. The first, what made this slightly more complex than just your average run-of-the-mill PC upgrade, was the CPU I got that just launched was so new, you can't go out and buy a motherboard that supports it out of the box yet. You have to actually go on the internet, download the latest, fresh off the presses BIOS update, and then flash that onto your motherboard before it'll even recognize your CPU. So that was a bit scary for me to do. Updating your BIOS has all sorts of things that could go wrong. You could brick your motherboard that way. I got it to work. It was fine. The other thing that went wrong for me, this was the lowest point of the PC build. This is where I was staring at the wall for a while. And the ironic part was, if I had just thrown caution to the wind, I never would have had any problems. I wanted to be safe, right? At this point, I had assembled my motherboard, plugged the RAM in, plugged the CPU in. It was going great. I was feeling good. The next part was just put it in my case, screw it down, do my cable management. But it's a nerve-wracking thing, hitting that power button for the first time and hoping you reach your BIOS and you post successfully. I figured, before I do all that busy work of putting it in the case, why don't I just plug in the power, plug my motherboard into a monitor, and make sure I can post? Because if it doesn't post, I'm going to have to take it back out of the case to debug what's wrong. Let's just do a quick and dirty check before it's in the case. Mm-hmm. So I do that. The fans whirl up, the LEDs power on, but there's no image on my monitor. I double check, am I on the right input type? It's HDMI, yeah, I'm good. I plug in like even more power to the motherboard just to make sure like it has everything it needs. I'm getting nothing. And I am super stressed because I'm like, okay, maybe that BIOS update I did didn't work. What's scary about that BIOS update I did, there's no visual confirmation that it worked. You just kind of hope it did. Because at that point, you're not plugged into anything. It's just your motherboard you're updating. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh no, is the CPU not going to be compatible now? The issue was, and I don't know why this was an issue, I just ran an HDMI cord from my monitor screen directly into my motherboard. In which case, I was thinking it was going to display with like the integrated graphics.
It's got to go to the GPU.
It has to go to the GPU.
I could have told you that.
The thing was, though, it wasn't displaying, and I didn't have the GPU connected. I would expect it to default to GPU if it's slotted in, but it wasn't. At this point, when I was doing this quick and dirty test, the GPU was in a different room.
In a box, yeah.
Yeah, in a box. So at that point, it should default to the integrated motherboard graphics, right? But it didn't. So on a whim, I just happened to plug in my GPU and said, all right, I'll give this a shot. And then it posted no problem. I thought that was weird, but I guess you expected it?
Yeah.
But here's my thing I'm wondering, though, Heath. Not everyone's computer has a GPU. You don't need it to display the image. That's just for like very graphical intensive things. It should just render from the motherboard.
If I try to use my camera to send video to my computer, I need the capture card.
Sure.
And the capture card is what takes the HDMI and turns it into USB, to be elementary about it. The GPU functions like a capture card in my mind.
Okay.
It is the means of taking the HDMI goodies and turning it into USB snackies.
Well, sure. But like, there are non-gaming PCs out there. I'd argue the majority of PCs that exist don't have GPUs in them. And yet you can run an HDMI cable to those. It just plugs into the motherboard.
Okay.
So why didn't it post?
You're using computers that don't have GPUs as an example. I don't know. That's new to me.
All right. If any computer savvy listeners want to write in and tell me why my computer didn't post going directly to the motherboard, please let me know. I'm curious. But it's working now. I haven't had time to totally stress test it, but I have two numbers for you to give you an idea of my massive performance gains. 2 games I ran. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It has that like an in-game benchmark thing you can run. It'll give you your average frame count. Pre-upgrade, I was getting an average of 60 frames per second.
Which is fine.
And then I put in the new CPU and ran it again. It went up to 83 frames average, which is a sizable gain for a CPU, because in most people's cases, your GPU is the bottleneck. So the fact that I got that kind of a performance gain from the CPU really tells you my old CPU was really holding back my graphics card, which is a shame. I also did Hitman 2, a benchmark test on that. That was also in the low... yeah. Hitman 2 was in the low 60s originally. When I threw in that new CPU, though, I'm now in the low 90s for average frames per second.
Nice.
Which is, I guess, makes sense. That seems like a CPU-intensive game with the quantity and density of the crowds and all the behavior for each individual person. That does seem like it would tax the CPU. So that's great.
I forgot to mention,
Yeah.
After I beat Bioshock,
Uh-huh.
I plugged in Hitman 2
Oh? After you totally wrote off Hitman 1.
just to see whether or not I was totally wrong and the Hitman 2 fixed all the problems from the Hitman 1.
Yeah.
I stand by what I said.
Okay.
Hitman 2, I don't care for it.
Dang. I was planning on revisiting it once I got this CPU upgrade, so maybe I'll investigate further. All right, that's about it. I'm pretty happy with it. I look forward to playing some more graphically intensive games now. The only issue now is, Heath, now that my CPU is great and my GPU is the bottleneck once again, it makes me want to get a new GPU.
Yeah, Christmas is coming.
Yeah. It's too bad all those new GPUs are still impossible to find.
Yeah.
All right. That's everything I've done the past couple weeks.
Great.
So we shall move on and take a break and return with more stuff. See you then.
And we're back.
And we're back. We have 4 emails we need to address, Heath.
Oh my God.
I hope you are ready, because some of them are lengthy.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, if you want to write into the podcast and have your email read on the air, how could you do that, Heath?
Oh, go to MobiusTubesPodcast@gmail, and Chris will log into the inbox and see the questions that are good and see the questions that are bad. But read both, because we have promised to.
That is correct. I'm going to read these in the order they arrived. This is, unfortunately, our long-lost email. This came in back on September 11th.
Okay.
So we have gone 2 months without addressing it.
Wow.
The topic is, I need my gambling.
Oh, Genshin Impact?
Actually, no.
Okay.
I think this predates
it.
Genshin
Yeah.
Impact. This comes in from a lonely wombat. He says, hello, Heath and Chris. With the NFL starting up last night and other sports still running, sports bets are alive and well. Obviously, the sports betting industry has taken a hard hit after this whole COVID-19 pandemic. Esports bettings, however, have been around for a little while now, but they've never been super mainstream. Here are some rapid-fire questions. Do you think that ESPN, DraftKings, and other sports betting platforms should invest more in esports betting, since it is probably much more stable throughout this pandemic
What do you mean
time?
invest?
Give them more time and attention.
Recognition?
I guess.
How much does ESPN recognize gambling?
I don't know. I'd ever tune into ESPN.
I don't even think that's allowed.
So, yeah, okay. DraftKings, is that like I'm guessing that's a fantasy league platform?
Yeah, you would, like, the first thing you do when you log into your account is see your betting balance.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's strictly for that.
Okay, so maybe ESPN is a bit of a misnomer, but DraftKings and other sports betting platforms, do we think they should lean into the esports side of gambling to have like a more consistent source of games during COVID times?
I imagine if you were to log into DraftKings, you'd have to navigate to get to the esports channel.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't be first and foremost.
Yeah, it's probably tucked away. What's the number one gambling sport ever? It's football, right?
That's a good question. I don't know offhand.
No, baseball. Baseball loves gambling.
Okay.
Yeah. Then it's football. Then it's basketball. Then it's Rocket League. What esport is supposed to attract all this huge gambling?
Right.
League?
The bigger ones are League and
Because it's team-based, so
Dota.
that's greater variability.
Overwatch, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think, even if they were to pivot,
Marble League?
Marvel League, I don't know if it would be all that great, right? I'm assuming part of the reason people bet on sports is because they're very familiar with that subject matter. They feel like, oh, I know the sports teams.
Therefore,
I have a pretty decent shot of knowing how this will
Advantage.
play out. You throw someone into League of Legends and they know nothing. That would be like they'd feel at a big disadvantage to be placing bets. I can't see your average typical sport fan taking that esports environment very well.
Well, never mind your typical sport fan, just your typical sports gambler.
Okay, right. Which is who we're ultimately talking about here.
Yeah. I disagree then.
Okay.
I think they would see that as an opportunity for gains.
Oh.
Thinking like, oh, yo, this is uncharted territory. If I play a couple rounds of League, I'm going to know which team's going to win at the grand finals.
I see.
Because they're all spreadsheet nerds.
Okay.
They're no longer... You ever watch the movie Moneyball?
No.
It's Brad Pitt's movie. He got an Oscar nom. Brad Pitt, you know, from Thelma and Louise.
Sure.
He plays the baseball manager for the... the Jays. Is that a baseball team?
Could be.
They're green and yellow.
Okay.
And it's up to him to turn the team around. And how does he do so? By hiring this MIT nerd who knows that the key to wins is RBIs. Meanwhile, the whole like baseball industrial complex of scouts being like, oh, he's got a spark in him, this kid. and yeah, he has to tell dozens of geriatric baseball scouts who've been doing it for decades. Philip Seymour Hoffman's in the movie, and he plays like in his Philip Seymour Hoffman voice was like, oh, Brad, you gotta not trust this kid. You got decades worth of experience right here. That's how Philip Seymour Hoffman talks. And Brad Pitt's like, no, we're going to go with this kid. We're going to go with Jonah Hill, who's also in the movie, who plays the nerd. And the whole movie is everyone telling Brad Pitt, no, don't do it. And then the team wins because science.
Yeah.
This is much like, what's it, Hungry Wombat? Who wrote it?
The Lonely Wombat.
Yeah, that too. Telling the DraftKings bettors to be like, trust, because that's all they're going to do is they're going to look at the data and see every time Draven is on the league team, they win 5% more frequently. So, and that goes against what you just said about how the better, like, they're unfamiliar. That's
okay.
Ripe for the taking.
You're telling me the type of individual who gravitates to these sports betting things, they're number crunchers. The context matters not to them. All they see are the numbers anyway.
Yeah.
So whether it's a physical baseball game or Overwatch.
Or am I wrong? Are people still doing the reactionary, oh, I got a feeling about the New England boys?
So neither of us, I'm guessing, know very much about the betting scene.
But it's 2020. Spreadsheets have been around a long time.
No matter what you do, you're going to lose the casual sport fan bettors. They're not going to jump in. But this more hardcore analytical individual you're painting for me, I guess I could see them jumping ship to the esports betting. Maybe even they prefer it, because you could argue esports are like the less mature, less developed enterprise.
It's the Wild West.
It's more of the Wild West. Maybe they're getting in on more of like an even footing. There aren't the old experts.
There's
at it.
as much dopamine to be gained from esports as in regular sports.
And therefore, there is as much money to be made betting?
Well, it doesn't matter, but the money is just if whether or not you get that dopamine hit from betting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you like the term esports?
Do I like it?
Or do you find it degrading?
I don't have strong opinions either way.
I've heard strong opinions.
Okay.
Like Dr. Disrespect thinks it's juvenile, calling it esports.
Okay.
When it really ought to just be like pro gamer.
People say they're professional gamers, right?
Gamer. I know, but like, let's check in with the esports commentator. No,
okay.
It's like they wish to be more legitimate than that. Because we don't call physical sports P-sports, right?
Right. Because there's that additional quantifier, it always seems like the lesser.
Right. So that's why they want it to be...
Yeah.
Let's check in with our gaming correspondent.
I suppose if there was just a completely different term for it, I'd be fine with that.
What about VR to the sports arena?
Oh,
and we'll call them V Sports. I'm calling it in 2020 V Sports.
I suspect
virtual sports.
They'd be called VR Sports before they're called V Sports.
Oh, really? But the namesake of esports is you're rhyming off of that.
But E is short for electronic, right?
Yeah. V is short for virtual.
All right. It could be V Sports.
Nailed it.
He asked us, do we think esports betting could become more mainstream?
Sure, as long as there's dopamine to be made, yeah.
At the end of the day, that's all you need, the dopamine.
Yeah. I'll bet on snails as long as I get a high off of it.
Or marbles.
Or marbles. It's relaxing watching some good Marble League.
What are the best games to watch and bet on, in your opinion?
I
don't have an opinion on this.
That was my only experience, was watching Marble League and thinking, like, there's fun to be had if you could just get in on the absurdity. And that's mostly it, is the novelty. Minus the novelty, what games do I think would be good for betting? Probably any fighting game.
Oh.
Like the classics, just the Street Fighters and the Mortal Kombats.
That's interesting because it is a 1v1 fight, usually.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people get hype over that Daigo clip from ages ago.
Okay. Yeah, I think fighting games would be a fun one to bet on.
Uh-huh.
There's less to keep track of compared to like a 5v5 MOBA game.
Right.
What is happening on the screen is very readable in a fighting game, comparatively.
Yeah. Rocket League as well.
Yeah, that has a very...
It might be the number one.
It's very analogous to what you'd see on like a regular sports field.
Because it has a ball.
Yeah.
I might even say that the worst games to bet on from a visual standpoint would be those 5v5 MOBAs.
Sure.
And, oh man, imagine XCOM esports betting.
There's no competitive XCOM. Is there?
PvP XCOM. Surely, I can't be the first person to suggest it, but like those isometric strategy turn-based.
You need a lot of in-game knowledge to comprehend what's happening.
Esports betting XCOM.
Right.
X-sports.
Just in general, the Mobius Tube's rule is the more legible the action on screen is, the better it is for betting.
That is a good way to describe it. Legibility. Digital legibility.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I watch football and I don't know what's happening in the scrum.
Sure, yeah. American
but
football
I can see the marble is ahead of the other one.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a higher barrier there.
Yeah.
Sure. He asks us what Nathan is up to.
Hopefully Nathan can write in a question to the Lonely Wombat.
An answer,
yeah. Because I don't want to speak for him. I haven't seen him in months.
Right. He just ends with, thank you for the podcast and all of your hard work, Heath.
Aww.
Sincerely, Lonely Wombat. # Team Heath.
Wow.
And the Chris patriarchy.
Oh? Why? Because we're so manly? Is why you picked the patriarchy?
I don't know.
I'll take it. Whatever. Any Team Heaths, I'll take it. You ever watch The Wire Season 3?
I haven't watched The Wire Season 1.
It's the political one.
Okay.
So it has to do with Congressman Carcetti going up against the established incumbent Baltimore mayor.
Yeah.
Who's like a black guy. And Carcetti is white. And he's running for the mayor of Baltimore, which is like the blackest city in America.
Okay.
I'm just calling it now. That's not true, but it feels very true.
Okay.
And so, an episode that highlights racial problems in the electorate was Carcetti, like, polling for vote. What's it called? Just like bolstering for votes out on the street? What's that called? When you go out in the street and you ask for votes.
Oh.
Surveying for votes? What is it called?
I don't know.
The word I was looking for was canvassing for votes with 2 S's. I'll figure it out. Man, I should. Anyway, so he comes across this old white man who directly says to him, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to vote for you, Carcetti. And Carcetti is like, oh, hey, thank you. And then the old man follows up saying, it's about time we take it back from the Goombas or something like that.
Oh.
Some sort of derogatory racial but it's like a very old man racial slur.
Okay.
He calls them like Mambos or whatever, or not Mandingos, but like Goombas or something. No, Goomba is Italian. Chris, what is the... What's the dated racial slur I'm trying to think of?
I wish I knew.
Anyway, my point being, we will take any Team Heath votes, regardless of where they come from.
That was the longest That was the longest analogy. But yeah, now you know the real reason I didn't read this email for 2 months. It was the hashtag Team Heath at the end.
That's why, yeah. That's our first email.
Yep, that was email number 1.
This is a good start.
All right, moving on. This one comes into us from St. Louis Sam.
Oh, all right.
All right.
Have you been to St. Louis?
No.
Quick, what state is St. Louis in?
I don't know.
Missouri.
Okay.
It's got the big arch.
Oh, okay.
You've been there.
I have not. Here's the email. Dear Mobius Tubes, I meant to send these questions earlier, but the world distracted me. Here are my questions if you so choose to read them.
We do, yeah.
There are 2. First one. Hi, Heath.
Oh, hi.
I loved your Animal Crossing date idea,
Yes.
but I am not as crafty as you are,
Oh.
even with your directions. So I was wondering if you have ever considered packaging your date ideas like HelloFresh or Blue Apron, so then I could buy it from you.
Oh my God.
A weekly subscription would be great.
Oh my God. A subscription service to uncreative would-be bachelors so that they may impress their
Significant other.
just in their courtship. You open the box. Wait, quick. All right, what's the name of this service? It's not HelloFresh
No.
and it's not Blue Apron.
No.
I'll workshop it. But you open it up and it comes with scissors because we know the lonely person who can't manage to muster up these crafty things doesn't have like scissors or glue sticks or anything. So it comes with that, which is why it's got to be maybe a little pricey. But yeah, it comes with all the popsicle sticks and pipe cleaner and all of these things that girls love. And you, for $19.99, I don't even think it has to be video game themed, but just all of the decorative beach shells, but it's not aimed at women. It's aimed at impressing the significant other who would like a crafting activity.
Yeah.
And you surprise them with it. So you got to keep the box a secret. So the outside of the box is just going to look like corrugated brown with like invoice numbers and lame packaging.
As boring as possible.
Because you know, a HelloFresh has the green decorative, like, oh, delicious inside. You know,
Yeah.
It's going to look very inconspicuous.
Mm-hmm.
And so you take it just in case you're living with the same person. And then you open it up. And then it has I'm going to write the instructions.
Right.
And I'm going to make sure it's easy for like dumb boys to follow.
The instructions are key.
And it's going to have big pictures and many opportunities for you to take a break. Because you're not going to want to put the marshmallows in the toothpicks for too long. Yeah. And then they take all the credit. So it's going to be like a secret service.
Right.
That you can subscribe to. And as soon as girls will catch on and be like, oh, you just got this from an eligible bachelor.
Yeah.
Then I got to close the operation and start up a new shadow subscription.
Yeah. No one's going to follow your business Twitter, but they'll still be buying it.
Yeah. The orders will be coming in. That's a great, I got to cut this is St. Louis Sam.
Yeah.
They just became a board member.
of the show.
Of my shadow company
Gotcha.
Of crafty subscription plans for people who can't be bothered to muster up the supplies on their own for their fun date ideas.
Gotcha.
Easy. Oh my gosh. We got to go get some enterprising capitalists.
Appear on Shark Tank, maybe.
Wow. Oh, I didn't even come up with that. Oh my God.
All right. Question number 2. This one's for both of us. Hi, Mobius Tubes. I have been in a long-term relationship for a while, and I'm worried about it getting stale. And I was wondering if you had any video game date ideas for newbie gamers.
Okay.
Neither me or my lovely girlfriend play video games, but I thought it might be a nice way to spice up
their love life.
Spice up the relationship.
Yeah.
Also, all we have are computers plus one iPad. Love the podcast. Keep up the good work. Oh, wait, I have one more question. Will you have any merchandise available that I can tell friends and family to buy me for Christmas? Sincerely, St. Louis Sam.
What was the merch idea that I came up with last time?
Oh,
It was a shirt with one of your common sayings on it. Do we come out with a line of water bottles and call them Mobius tubes? And you fill up your tube with G Fuel, and that's how we get them there. Yeah.
What is G Fuel?
You don't know what G Fuel is?
No.
It's a drink flavoring company.
Okay.
That they sponsor PewDiePie and Dr. Disrespect, and they're all
okay.
If not for Mountain Dew, there's G Fuel. You can assume what the G stands for.
Gamer.
No, it actually stands for glutamine. It's a high glutamine substitute in your nutrition plan.
Damn.
Yeah.
All right. So what games would we recommend as date night ideas? This is like your forte, Heath.
This is such a good question that I feel like I'm also going to cut in ideas that I think of after we stop recording.
Okay.
Because I want it to be the go-to.
Definitive.
So you have a computer and an iPad.
Yeah.
Which means you have access to Steam and iPad.
The App Store. And we're assuming these aren't gaming rigs, probably. They have lower specs.
No. Yeah. You have two options, and it's two people, right?
Yeah, two people.
All right. So my first thought was you want to play one of those fun platformers that require cooperation. I'm talking Heave Ho.
Oh.
You know what this game is?
I'm not sure that I do.
It's just a very simple game where you play one of these grabbies and you have to get to the finish line. Also sort of like Ultimate Chicken Horse.
I think so.
I'm rattling these off, aren't I? Ultimate Chicken Horse is like playing horse in the basketball sense.
Okay.
Right? Where you got to get to the end as set by one of your fellow players through the obstacles.
Oh, it's almost like a Mario Maker level design.
Sort of, but this person doesn't have a Switch, Chris.
Right. I'm saying it's just an analogous idea of one person making the level, the other person playing it.
This one is fun to try.
Mm-hmm.
So is Heave Ho, because Heave Ho, you have to cooperate. You play as these, like I said, just people with two opposable hands. You got to swing from one end to end if you want to get to the finish line.
Okay.
Both of these are good choices. What's that, Snipper Clips?
Yeah, I think that is exclusively a Switch game.
Oh, dang, because that's also like a two-player puzzle
game.
Platforming. Yeah.
That requires a lot of cooperation.
Yeah, so any of these three games, if you can get your hands on them, that's a good way to go, but it's not for everybody. Bailey would not care at all about Ultimate Chicken Horse.
Okay.
The controls would be too cumbersome to try to jump over that saw blade, but under that laser beam.
Yeah.
So, in that regard, then you reach for Gone Home. Then you reach for Edith Finch. They are single-player games, but they are enjoyable stories like that of a movie. Movies are single-player. It's just
movies are zero player.
Movies are infinite player. Or no, zero player. You're closer. I think you pitch you give them options and then they're going to feel suckered in. You play one of these platformers or you play the walking simulators. Other avenues you could go, maybe Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. Because that's got some novelty to it. And it's exclusively two-player.
Okay.
Or just normally.
That sounds like a stressful recommendation. That is a bomb defusal game?
Yeah. But then, give the bomb to the person who is more video game savvy.
It sounds like neither of them are in this instance.
Fine. Okay, so stay away from Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes.
My mind went more towards the walking sim idea. I was going to recommend games that play out like interactive movies. I'm thinking
Not
about...
Until Dawn.
Maybe not that one. I'm thinking about games made by Telltale. So if you have any familiarity with the movie Bandersnatch, the Black Mirror thing, these kind of games I'm recommending will function similarly, where it's a very cinematic experience. You're watching a cool story play out, heavy on dialogue, but you get to make decisions that affect the plot at certain points. A company called Telltale made a whole bunch of games and a variety of licenses, so maybe pick a license that appeals to you. Options include...
Batman.
There is a Batman Telltale game. There is a Walking Dead one. There is one called The Wolf Among Us, which is like a...
Brothers Grimm fantasy. folk tale.
It's like a noir detective story, but told with fantasy.
Three Little Piggies.
Yeah, the Three Little Pigs and like a Sleeping Beauty.
Robin Hood. Or no, Little Red Riding Hood.
These are all games I've played and really enjoyed. There are imitators of the Telltale formula that exist out there that I might recommend, like Life is Strange, maybe. That's a time travel teen drama story. So yeah, if they don't demand too much from you in the dexterity department, it is mostly just dialogue decisions that you have to make. And they usually have cool stories. I think they're pretty approachable. Even though only one person will be holding the controller at any point, you can trade off between different sections of the story or just discuss it while one person plays. I think they'd be great for a date night. I've played some of these games as date nights before, and I've had
meteoric success.
I've had, pretty good success. So that's what I would recommend.
I'm trying to make use of the iPad.
Okay. I don't know the iPad store library that well.
Maybe Space Team, but that's too high intensity. Not good for two people who are trying to rekindle
their stale relationship.
The brittle, yeah. Survival games.
What's an example of a survival game
you
had in mind?
Like Don't Starve or
Minecraft?
Damn, yeah, Minecraft. No. Stay away from those, I think. I'm assuming that the computer that they have is a Mac.
Unsure.
Because that's much more limiting.
I think they said, what did they say? Did they use PC as?
They did PC, then open up Stardew Valley and do something with that. Can you do crossplay with Stardew Valley? From iPad to computer?
I have no idea.
That'd be that's a thought.
They don't specify.
Girls love Stardew Valley.
They don't specify Mac or PC.
Well, let's assume Mac.
I think we've answered it sufficiently.
Yeah, I'm gonna think about it some more though.
All right, maybe you'll patch in some more ideas.
I'm trying to save this relationship.
On to the next email because we still have 2 more to go. Okay, this one is titled.
Maybe my girlfriend wrote that.
I can confirm she did not.
Okay.
This one, the subject is Heath torture time.
Oh, no.
Speaking of your girlfriend, this one comes in from my girlfriend. And this is addressed to Heath. So as requested, here is my email so that I can receive a proper response to the opening of last episode where I believe you said she was very hot. She says there's a few things that need to be addressed. So is this why you told Chris to never break up with me, even if I cheat on him?
Oh, what, just because of her looks? No, even if it cheats on you?
Are the looks the driving factor behind that advice?
Okay. Have you, what's it called? This is kind of misogynist, but what's the...
You're off to a great start.
What's the hotness to crazy scale?
Oh, I've heard of this.
That's a How I Met Your Mother reference.
This is another 2-axis system.
Yeah, but what am I looking for? Like the hot to crazy...
So
this guy, the hot and crazy matrix. This is from 2015.
I've developed this on my own over 46 years.
This video is only available in 480p, which means you know it's good.
And your hot axis. Hot is, as usual, measured from 0 to 10. We're all familiar with that.
This is like a middle-aged man who's clearly married and has kids.
There's no such thing as a woman who's not at least a 4 crazy.
but fancies himself really funny.
4 to 10. This is your hot crazy line right here. Very important that you keep in mind where the hot crazy line is.
He's explaining it with such a straight
face. This is your
face.
no-go zone. We do not hang around and date and marry women who are not, at least in our mind, a 5. So this is your no-go zone. You don't go here. We just rule this out. Life is better this way.
Life is better this way.
All right.
All right.
Above a 5
So,
and to a
her question, right, is, was that the reason that you ought not to leave her even if she cheats on you?
Is that the deciding
because she's
factor?
so hot. No. And that was a joke. Obviously, I don't know whether or not you've been cheated on, but it's not cool. And anyone who's ever been cheated on, just walk away, no holds barred. But let's say something less than if she were to cheat on you. Let's say she is not willing to cooperate with your hand washing rule.
Oh.
Or something.
I'm not sure that's below the cheating.
Just what's like a lesser thing than cheating that still rubs you the wrong way? If she gets like a nose ring, let's say, no, because that's kind of this became the patriarchy show. What do I imagine for you like a deal breaker that's cause for alarm? Do I think that you still ought to date her even if she does something you don't like just because she's super hot? No, even that is, cause for discussion. It was mostly taking the piss out of you and just reaching for an explanation as to why you landed such a pretty girl.
All right, we've got even more fun questions here while you're under the limelight. She asks, did you forget that I listened to this podcast or think that I would not address this point with you?
Yo, I actually thought it would mostly be like a wink and a nod. I listen.
You thought that would be the extent of it.
Just kind of like, it wouldn't be the dinner table discussion, but yeah, I thought it would just be, if anything, and I wasn't thinking about her listening to the show. But if it were to come to that, I thought it would be like if we were in an elevator together, she would look at me and be like, "So I heard the podcast is pretty," just like as indirect as it could possibly be. But that's not how Alexis rolls.
Yeah, definitely not. She wrote this whole email.
She'll hold your feet to the fire.
Number 3
which
here.
is even hotter.
Why did you seem so shocked that I'm attractive? Is this bashing on the girls Chris has previously been with?
Oh, no.
Or Chris's value or something else entirely?
No, if Chris's exes are listening to the show, that's not that. I can only recall maybe like one of you, and for that reason, they ought not think differently of themselves. Nor should they really care what I think of them, really, right? Because I am a no good straight white male with a podcast. I could say anything, and it ought not hold that much weight. With the exception of my video game date ideas, you should put those in a book. What was the first part of her question? Why am I so surprised?
Why were you so surprised?
No, it was just me roasting Chris, who has eclipsed me in muscle mass, and I'm self-conscious about it, so I have to bring him down in other ways.
That's fair.
That's accurate.
Okay.
I like this. She should write in more.
She said she found this entirely humorous since most people don't comment on her appearance with the exception of her height. Yeah.
Well, she's Bailey height.
She also says, I think Bailey is insanely pretty, and I want her to come to game night soon because I want to be her friend.
Yeah, what the heck, Chris? Why are you keeping my girlfriend at a game night?
Also, both my emails primarily respond to Heath. Gotta call out Chris for something sometime soon.
Ooh.
Thank you for the ego boost, Alexis.
Yay. That's all we're here for, is to boost each other's egos. I know mine gets boosted on the reg.
And if you were paying attention, she said both her emails because she has another one right now.
Oh, shit.
This is our final email of the show. And this is hearkening back to our video games art conversation from 2 episodes ago.
Yes. Great. Okay, great.
Because Alexis works as a art teacher in a high school. So she has thoughts on this. She says, "Hi, nerds."
Ooh, the call out. Listen, I don't have car decals of my favorite video game franchises.
Oh, you noticed those.
Damn.
Ultimately, I think the discussion about design versus art needed to be represented during this segment.
Design versus art.
Yeah. I don't know Heath well, but I gotta call him out on some of his views. And generally, I'd like to add some points. Chris had the benefit of having this conversation with me previously, so he generally knows my opinions. He did forget to mention that I feel that the person has to be consciously making a message when creating their art in some form for it to be considered art, or that the person interpreting it has to somehow receive a message from the art. If it does both of these things, even if the message is different, it tends to be considered a good piece of art.
Wait, like good as in appealing or good as in like an effective representation of the concept?
I think more so the latter.
The latter, yeah. I got you. Yeah, I got it, Alexis, yeah.
The person creating the piece of art thinking it isn't art does not entirely disqualify it from actually being art. It just might be bad art, or it might mean more to the viewer than the creator intended.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, good examples of that are Stonehenge.
Well, we don't know what the creators intended Stonehenge
Yeah,
for.
the creators could have just been gaga for it and thought
Yeah.
it was the biggest thing ever.
That's true.
I am more of the opinion that they wanted to make a clock, and everyone is all like, ooh, look at this.
Okay, going off of that, that could be a good example.
Quick, what's the oldest thing of art? Thomas Scott. White horse.
This is the Uffington White Horse, and it is somewhere around 3,000 years old. It was carved into this hill in Oxfordshire before the British Isles had written history, so we have no idea who made it or why. And until humanity invented aircraft millennia later, no one could even really see it properly. The view from the ground here isn't great. This is a 3,000-year-old
Whoa.
piece of art, and I am now going to smash part of it with this hammer.
We're smashing chalk into the figure of the horse today to preserve its appearance and keep its longevity as people have done for the last 3,000 years. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here. We're taking new
Right, so
chalk
this
from
is
the
an
quarry
example
just
of maybe a
behind you.
piece of art that the creators thought like, big horse, and then since then has developed into this massive preservationist effort.
For 3,000 years.
Yeah, so, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm particularly think it's cool that the artists who made this never got to see it from the aerial view.
Oh, you're a big fan of the Nazca lines.
The what?
The Nazca lines. Damn, dude.
I'm learning so much this episode.
Nazca lines. These are in Mexico or New Mexico or something.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, they're in Peru. Excuse me. Nazca lines are in Peru. That's the big one, the hummingbird one.
Oh,
And these are huge.
right. Much bigger than that horse.
Yeah. This is the first thing they reached to about aliens.
Sure. Yeah, you can consider me a big fan of these. Back to
the Alexis.
email. She says, often the emotion that is intended while being created isn't even the one that viewers take away from the experience. That doesn't necessarily make it unsuccessful. In fact, some artists hope for this open interpretation. Good art conveys emotion to the viewer, even negative emotions. A piss Christ is brought up as a bad piece of art, but it's mostly because so many people thought it was blasphemous to throw a statue of Jesus into a jar of piss and take a photo. I think it's a successful and good piece of art because it forces that outrage or negative emotion on most people, and that is the intent of the photo. I find I have a completely different experience to this piece of art as an atheist than a faithful Christian would.
Ooh, say that again. What was that? I missed that.
I find I have a completely different experience to this piece of art as an atheist than a faithful Christian would.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
If I like Piss Christ is a different story. People tend to invalidate abstract art due to disliking it and not understanding it. A child could create a drawing for their mother, and it would still be art, but rather poor art due to the lack of complexity, individuality, and technical skill. Their message of, I love you, Mom, is not exactly groundbreaking. Great art can bring a new perspective to the table and is often relatable, especially to our more complex emotions or relates to current events. If someone made a painting of a girl wearing a surgical mask in 2019, we would assume they were a medical professional, and most couldn't personally relate to her. In 2020, it adds value due to its timing and culture and the population's feelings on the subject in a pandemic climate. Moving on to Heath. Heath talks about making an Excel sheet aesthetically pleasing and if his dining room should be considered art. She thinks these things fall under the umbrella of design, a sister to art, something that is created for a function while using the same technical skills that you would use in art, typically are called design. Furniture design, interior design, graphic design, web design all fall under this. I personally feel art and design are very closely related, and there definitely can be some overlap in some areas.
Right. That's like architecture and building. What was I trying to say?
Yeah, it boils down to that practicality aspect. Just like she says, you're applying the same skills that go into making a beautiful painting, but you're doing it for a functional purpose, while art solely exists for the purpose of art.
Right.
Good design is also suitable for the subject. Throwing Comic Sans on a birthday card would be design, but some pretty bad design work. In art school, typically, art, design, and crafts are all put under the same roof due to how closely related they are. And of course, they share materials and facilities. The Excel sheet is being designed to not hurt your eyes and to communicate data in a user-friendly format. Going to the museum conversation.
Oh, yeah, whether or not she feels a museum can be art.
Yeah, the museum itself. As far as museum curator being art, you ignore the subtlety of the museum harmony by saying it isn't art.
Whoa, we're talking harmony?
Art is not just thrown into these rooms and the day is done. Curators have to consider how art pieces have conversations with each other. What art pieces are placed near each other can largely impact the message in a room. It is intentional how they are organized and displayed. If there is a statue and you are deciding how to display the piece, doesn't it change its meaning if you put it on a pedestal inside with lights on it? Or alternatively, put it outside in the weather, in a field, or on the floor? The impact doesn't have to be as noticeable as Chris's really weird example to still
No, that
be
was
art.
good. The heckin' 2-mile hallway of from dry to wet.
In fact, the best format, I believe, is when it isn't so obvious as to not immediately take away from the art itself. It's much more feasible to potentially argue curation being under the design element than to argue it isn't art or design at all. If you were to have a room full of art by female artists and you have one piece about women being stay-at-home moms, one being about traveling the world, and one working at home, it could be an exhibition about the range of female choice in life and progress in society.
Sure.
But if all featured paintings were women being homemakers, it would completely change the meaning of the exhibition. Even galleries organized by movements or locations can have that effect. The organization and display of art can enhance the meaning if you really look around for it. Your deep fake, Heath, your Baka Matai.
Yeah, you told me about this. Yeah.
Heath's deep fake is actually art, whether you intended it to be or not. I think a dive into the art movement Dada would be highly beneficial for understanding this.
Oh, quick to the Googles.
That is spelled D-A-D-A.
Yeah, of course. Oh, wow. This is Dada or Dadaism is European avant-garde of the early 1900s from Switzerland. I with this. Ooh, this is that weird stuff. It's the funny font and the creepy creeps. Oh, I know people that would love this.
Not all art has to be serving a higher purpose, convey a deep emotion, or show enormous technical skill. It can also just be showing something that is rare, and humor can definitely be rare in art. Humor and satire is really the theme within that deep fake you made, and it comes across easily.
Thank you.
If it's good art or not is another question entirely that I won't dive into. The artists in the Dada movement provided art that can be made for art's sake, and it doesn't have to be as serious as everyone takes it.
Yeah, look at the urinal. Yeah.
They just made art to be silly, and the emotion people often get through their work is bewilderment, curiosity, and most think it's preposterous. Art can be more entertainment-related and just straight up silly. Remember the banana taped to the wall that is worth like $100,000? It's in the same spirit as that, just to be funny and amusing, but even that has a message.
Oh, So we replaced Dada with banana.
Is that the title of this episode? She addresses that criticism of how you could get so many different messages from a single video game because they're not static. She says, I don't think there is any issue with art being interpreted multiple ways. I think it was just the article that mentioned that video games that allow for different endings end up devaluing the true meaning of the plot or theme of the game. No one interprets art in the same way anyway. She says, when I see Monet's painting series with the lily pads, I am reminded of a park near my hometown and stealing the flowers from them in the summertime as a child. Someone who is colorblind might just see a bunch of texture and just be able to tell that it's water and be reminded of kayaking. A child might not fully understand the subtlety of what they are seeing in the Impressionist style, but they appreciate the green hues since green is their favorite color.
You know what's funny?
What?
I don't see this as the Monet painting. I see this as the Banksy painting because that's what I saw first, where he did the same thing. Would put a traffic cone and a shopping cart
in the foreground.
Yeah, it says like consumerism and pollution. Yeah, yeah, but this is actually a Monet painting. I
think that's a perfect example of what she's trying to say here.
Yeah.
Monet painted it near his home in France, and it was one of his favorite spots towards the end of his life. We all have completely different relationships with paintings, but yet all of our experiences are valid, despite some being more shallow than others. Also, the definition I gave of art is general because art can apply to so many things. Art, design, and crafts are literally all around us, so of course it would be broad. Almost every single thing we interact with is not an accident, but intentionally designed or created to convey a message.
Okay.
Video games easily fill into this interesting area between art and design. It's a collaborative effort with some elements serving a purpose and some to help with the message of the game. The graphic user interface is more related to design, whereas the characters could be considered art.
Persona 5 would like to beg to differ.
That UI goes way above just function.
Art across the board.
When you see a character that has been created with intention, you can tell a lot about them just by their design.
Die Hard Man.
Pixar has broken this down in their movies with head shapes, triangular being aggressive and circle being innocent. Square being a solid person.
She's going for like the Doofenshmirtz. Yeah.
You can combine them to show a glimpse into who the character really is. That design can help you immediately tell what type of a person they are. The music can help manipulate the tension and high emotions in general and could be considered art. The combination of many elements of the game is what I consider to be the art part of it. I could go on, but it seems you are both agreed on the matter, but I thought it could be explored more in depth about the specific aspects in a game. Anyway, I couldn't resist writing an essay. Bye.
Damn.
P.S. I'm offended that Chris specifically used the example of The Great Gatsby, knowing my extreme rage towards it.
Extreme rage.
She
right, because
loathes
she hates
the
the Leo.
Oh no, this rage is born of just the source text.
Oh yeah, because she's also a leftist. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was good.
That was a lot.
That was, yeah.
But it was good.
She is smart in addition to being hot.
So now I really shouldn't dump her if she cheats.
Yeah. Great. Wow, we got to have her on the show.
Oh, she wouldn't like that.
No.
I've asked her.
Because that's like, don't meet your heroes.
But you've met her.
That's very generous towards me.
Oh, it was in reverse?
Oh, yeah. No, that's probably for the best. Okay, cool. So the capstone to our Roger Ebert discussion.
Yeah.
And my main takeaways were how she reiterated on your 2 Mile Museum analogy. I liked that. I liked getting her perspective on things like that. And she heckin' touched on my dining room spreadsheet stuff.
Yeah, I like the deep dive into
Yeah.
distinguishing design from art
Yeah.
and how they do
Why
have
didn't we say that?
because we're not
'Cause
educated
we're not
in art.
art teachers.
But yeah, it was fun pointing out how they do use a lot of the same skill sets and tools, but the intention behind them is what differentiates them. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. Intention.
Yeah.
I intend to end this podcast.
I'm right there with you. It's been a good episode, the mailbag episode.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to crank this out fast. Next episode will be predictions, Game Award predictions.
We gotta get our picks out.
My suspicion is it's going to be an easy year to pick. It's going to be no sweat.
Oh, you're right. Which will make it that much closer
Competition.
of a race.
That's my theory.
And we got to come up with the stakes
We've got to come up with the stakes.
like we did last time.
And we've got Mobius Tunes coming up.
Yeah, next episode's stacked.
Yeah,
But thank you for listening to this episode.
of course. Yeah.
And hey, just because this was our big mailbag doesn't mean that you can't write in.
Right.
I've said the email 100 times.
I won't ignore emails for 2 months anymore.
We're sorry, Wombat. Yeah.
I hope any listeners who have next-gen consoles are enjoying them. And write in and tell us any cool things you've learned.
Tell
about
us whether or not you've dropped them into bathtubs or if your Xbox Series X has been smoking.
it. Oh, I did see that.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for recording with me, Heath.
Yeah, I'm glad we did it.
See you next time.